All right. Remove that. Yes. Here we are. All right. So we are live. All right. So everybody, welcome back. This is Talks with Alex. We're starting 2 minutes late. So yeah, there we go. Hey China, how are you? I see you just commented on the thing. This is Talks with Alex. We are going to talk about the Democratic Party and the Democratic Convention. I love politics, so this time for me right now is like absolutely amazing. We are going to be talking about the VP. We're going to be talking about Joe Biden. We're going to talk about the party, some of the speeches that happened last night. You see, I have my Bernie Sanders shirt on because I am an ardent, avid Bernie Sanders fan. I have been for a very long time. I was a Bernie Sanders fan before Bernie Sanders even decided to run for president way back when. So this is really big for me. Unfortunately, he's not going to become the president one day because he's now entirely too old. But moving forward with that, I have some great guests on tonight. We're going to talk about politics. They all span the spectrum of moderate and liberal. So I think that it's going to be a very, very good conversation. I need all of you guys to go on my Facebook page and share the link, the live link, so you all can see it. Comment on these posts, ask them questions, and like it. Engage with us, interact. If you have friends that want to follow it too, please go onto my YouTube channel. It is also streaming live there. Talks with Alex. If you hear something or you think something is valuable, you'll be able to go back onto my YouTube channel and listen to it over again. But check it out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce these amazing panelists. I'm excited to bring them on. All of these people I've either seen discuss politics or I've had political conversations with them. So guys, feel free to enjoy the conversations because it's going to be rather interesting. So the first person I want to definitely introduce is Mr. Tyrell Brown. Tyrell Brown, here we are, and I'm going to add him. There you go, Tyrell. Tyrell Brown is a pre-K teacher, public education advocate, children's programming coordinator for the Trans Wellness Conference, an organizer with Reclaim, steering committee member of the newly formed Philadelphia Citizens Solidarity Coalition, and volunteer coordinator for Mike Doyle, Democrat for PA in the 107th District. I actually like Michael Doyle a lot. When I ran for office, we were really good friends. We became really good friends on the campaign trail when he ran the first time. My political ideology is based in service first to others and our communities collectively, centering policies and platforms that create and sustain material changes for our communities over amplifying the legacies of individual politicians, political figures, and parties when appropriate. Movement politics over transactional politics. And yeah, that's very good. Actually, that was him saying it, not me. That was all about him. It was kind of confusing because I think I put in some commentary. All right. The next person that I definitely want to introduce is one of my great friends, and he's now a reoccurring voice on Talks with Alex. Is my great friend Ra Shad Gaines. Ra Shad Fraizer-Gaines is a compassionate and a noteworthy social justice advocate, policy champion, scholar, and entrepreneur. As a leader, Fraizer-Gaines has prompted and executed many movements and campaigns across the United States, including Ferguson, Charlotte, Jackson, and Charleston. Fraizer-Gaines is an ordained elder in the Church of God in Christ, Kojic. He is the Chief Strategy Officer for Amplify Action and Chief of People, Politics, and Culture for rising media giant Black with No Chaser. All right. And last, but definitely not least, I would like to introduce my great friend, Shane. I've known Shane since Washington, D.C., and we met when I was in community college. Shane definitely lives in Washington, D.C. He's a community activist, nurse, and health care policy expert. All right. So I'm going to bring them all in because I know you're tired of hearing me chit chat all this time. And I am going to start this great discussion with all of these great people. All right. So I'm going to unmute your mics, and I just want to say, hey, everybody, how are you guys doing tonight? Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
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 Hey, Shane.
Hey.
Okay, got it. Good. Good. I just wanted to make sure the volume was good with everybody because sometimes that acts kind of funny with this platform. But okay, so let's get right into it. All right. So we have this Democratic convention that's going on. It is uh, online, basically. Have you guys watched any of the speakers speak so far, and how have you liked it so far? And I guess we can start with Ty. We can start with you. How have you
Um,
liked so far this convention?
yeah, so last night I did not watch any of the speeches. Um, I actually caught up with a few of them because I heard, that there were some really powerful moments. So I caught up with them today, just rewatching them. Um, I didn't watch it. I believe it was intentional. I'm going to go with that. I made an intention to not watch it simply because I know what it's for. But it's also a spectacle, and I kind of, like I have work to do, but there's real work to do right now, and like I'm trying to push for Democrat right now to win an election, and you know, I can pat them on the back, and we can applaud each other when we get the things that we need. So I'll be cheering then.
Okay, all right. What about you, Shane? Have you had a chance to watch the convention yet?
Yeah, so I watched it last night. Probably the highlights for me were the beginning where, you had these like children from all these various states and people who were part of concert choirs singing the national anthem, the anthem that, Democrats and liberals supposedly hate because we kneel when, it's being sang and we hate America and we're not patriots. So that I thought was pretty good. I also thought that the speech that was given by the young woman, and I can't remember her name, the one who said that the pre-existing condition for her father, who was otherwise healthy, was trusting Donald Trump, and he ended up dying as a result of complications from COVID-19. That was probably the highlight. I enjoyed Michelle Obama's speech. The detractors for me were Governor Cuomo because he specifically mentioned a bunch of marginalized groups and tried to chide Donald Trump about police brutality and police violence. But when you're in the state of New York, that's basically like calling the pot, and the kettle really, really black when, you're just kind of like not so black. And so the fact that he didn't specifically mention anti-blackness was something that I actually, zeroed in on because he talked about anti-Latino stuff. He talked about everybody except for everyone else. He mentioned George Floyd, but didn't mention Eric Garner. That's the issue. And for me, I was just like, I said, okay, I'm feeling some of it. And then John Kasich's speech was okay. I thought the Republicans who were supporting, Joe Biden, they gave decent speeches, but my God, it was just I didn't sense a lot of enthusiasm there. So that's my big thing about that right now.
Oh wow! How about you? There's a lot to unpack there. We'll get to that. What did you think, Rashad?
I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch it?
And
Are
I'm
you
not going to.
serious?
And I'm not going
Why?
to.
Why did you watch it?
Because I didn't want to.
Why not?
I've been a delegate I've been a delegate twice. I've been to 3 DNC conventions. I went to Denver. I was a delegate in Charlotte. I was a delegate in Philadelphia. And don't get me wrong, like it's a good time. It's a party. It's the political Olympics. Like if you do political work or you're active in any type of community engagement, major political party conventions are your Olympics. Well, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. Um, the 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 entirety of the convention is not the same, right? So I am excited for the folks who got their little delegate badges and little bags in the mail and all of that great stuff. And I know like folks at home think they're special because they're delegates, but whatever specialness you're feeling right now is absolutely nothing, because the reality is the time that you would have had in Milwaukee if we were not in a pandemic doesn't even, like, whatever excitement you have now can't even like burst a hole in what you would feel if this were a normal year. But it's not a normal year. So since it's not a normal year, we can't gather like we normally would. I think our energy would be better spent doing other things. Like, I don't know, we don't have there is no plan that has been made to figure out how we are going to turn out voters as a whole. Our traditional field plan for winning elections is out of the window. The traditional model for how we win elections, which is a turnout game. The person who can get the most people to the polls wins. Regardless, we're not talking about voter suppression tactics. We're not talking about the days that it rains. We're not talking about any natural disasters or catastrophes. We're talking about in a regular election, with all bets off, everything being fair, you win by getting the most people to the polls. So there is energy that is not being used to focus on how we are going to get people to the polls, because our traditional ways of campaigning and working what we call the field are out of the window. So maybe this week we should have been focusing all of our energy and attention on figuring that out, because we're now in the last 30 days for most places of voter registration. We're either in the last 30 days or entering into the last 30 days of voter registration for most states and territories. So maybe we should be thinking about that. So I'm just not excited. I'm never going to be a fan of having sitting Republican governors. And don't get me wrong, I like John Kasich. I actually do like John Kasich. But the Young Turks released a poll today that showed that only 38% of people watching the convention were excited about hearing him. And 2/3 were excited about hearing Bernie Sanders. And 63% were excited about hearing Representative Ocasio-Cortez. So, and she only got 1 minute. The singular most exciting figure in all of the Democratic Party is a young Latina who's proud of being Latina and proud of working against the foolishness that runs our party. And she gets 1 minute. So if you ask me why I didn't watch, all that is why I didn't watch, because I got other stuff that I can be doing with my time than sitting in front of the computer. If I'm gonna be watching a show on the computer or on my smart TV, it better be on Netflix or Hulu Plus. Okay. Or Showtime or HBO. It could be P-Valley. It could be The Chi. It could be The 20s. I can name you a whole bunch of great Black shows for me to be watching at night on my smart TV or my computer. And you're welcome. Okay, so it could be Power Book too. Everybody Hates to Read. It could be all that.
Okay. You good?
Are you
got that out?
Are you good?
So my thing is that we have AOC, one of the top fundraisers for the party, right? I mean, in Congress. I think she outraised everybody in our party. She gets 60 seconds. We get John Kasich up there, and for however long he spoke with that weird crossroad visual that he tried to give that zeroed in on him. It was just, I just thought that it was a lot, right? And we have Ocasio-Cortez, who has completely inspired the young people in the party. She gets 60 seconds. Are you okay with the direction the Democratic Party is going in? And I think that is really the question that we really need to be asking. I mean, like, do we feel that the policies of the party is really exhibiting the people that is following it? And I'll let you go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the polls are there. 88% of people support Medicare for all. 88% of registered Democrats and Democratic-leaning voters support Medicare for all. And 9% of people right now are enthused or voting for Joe Biden because of his platform and policies. Overwhelmingly, most people are voting for him because he's not Trump, because he's their only choice. Or they feel like he's their only choice in this upcoming election. And it screams right now of like sort of a sheepdogging tactic to try to get people back into the party behind behind like sort of surface level identity politics, instead of really listening to the guttural things that people are absolutely desperate right now to get and to wrap their hands around. People right now need security, and security doesn't come with just Donald Trump being kicked out of office, because as all four of us probably have a reference for and know, understand, and live every day, most of the problems within our community existed long before 2016. They existed when Barack Obama was in office for 8 years. They existed long before, we can go back decade after decade after decade of the promises that politicians make. And it's one of the statements that I made in my bio, which is that transactional politics, it basically gears our agency towards one election and to win one election, which I guess at this juncture is what we have to do. But when I talk to people, and I've been talking to people for the last election cycle, it's like, acting suddenly like we can't walk and chew at the same time is absolutely ridiculous. And then people that are now in the next 3 months that are basically, saying like, well, this is what we have. And it's like, no. Everybody had a choice in this. Everyone had a choice in this. There were 23 people on that stage, 23 people. And to sit here and act like in August that this is all we have, this is all we were able to do. I don't know. I wasn't really interested. I'm not really interested in politics. Look, to be quite honest, I'm not really interested in politics either. And I'll tell you why. I'm actually interested in people's lives. I'm interested in what's happening to people's lives. I'm interested in what's happening to my life. And I'm passionate about those things. It just so happens that in order to make change on a larger platform, you have to get involved in politics. If we could do it in a different way, I would do that. But I think right now the DNC and the party, really they're missing a moment. Somebody posted on my pet timeline, they were like, did you watch it last night? Did you watch it? Did you watch the convention? Didn't you like the part when they said Black Lives Matter? And then it laughing emojis, because nobody said it. So it was like that to me. It's like there are crucial things, crucial messages, and crucial things that people need to hear affirmatively said by the party that is supposed to be supporting us from the ground up. So or not just supporting us, amplifying us, and then coming behind us and pushing us forward. Not just policies, politicians, or political figures. They're supposed to be pushing our needs forward. And I think it's like, right now they're missing the boat, not just on policy. They're missing the boat on message. They're missing the boat because they're so concerned right now with ensuring that they don't look like the bad guy compared to Trump. They're so concerned with that they're like, look, let's bring John Kasich on. Like, you're concerned with the wrong thing. You have a movement of people out here right now that will absolutely stand affirmatively with the Democratic Party if you do and say certain things, and you can walk and chew at the same time. And we all four know exactly why they're not doing it. It's because the donor base actually has their fingers in what we need to do now too. So
let me ask you a question then. And I'll bring this to Shane. Shane, you don't feel like they are giving us this whole Black Lives Matter? You don't think that they're acknowledging African Americans by giving us Kamala Harris? You don't think Kamala is giving us that head nod that they care about Black lives, and that they are moving in the direction of making sure that marginalized people are getting their say so in the party?
Um, that's so no. Let me say this. Um, for me, last night, the fact that George Floyd's family had to call out all of those names and that it wasn't done by an elected official or anybody. I think it was Mayor Muriel Bowser actually gave a pretty passionate address. I was actually quite, surprised because I'm not one of her fans or acolytes, but her address was actually spot on when she was introducing George Floyd's brothers. But the fact that they had to actually go ahead and call out all of these names, and not all of them, just names of people who had been killed, and they had referenced Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and Eric Garner, and the governor of the state of New York, who everybody was giving, these kind of like presidential kudos to for his management of COVID-19, and that's another thing that's an issue, and we can talk more about that later. He didn't say it though. Not one elected official said anything. I think James Clyburn might have touched on it last night. I really didn't pay too much attention to a lot of those speeches last night because really, some of it was kind of hit or miss for me. The speeches weren't that exciting except for Michelle Obama's, and that really was also kind of like a hollow ring for me because the repetition of "we go low," when they go low, we go high, and my mantra is that when they go low, I go lower. So, I mean, I'm getting ready to get down into the muck and mire with you, and I'm getting ready to go ahead and clown and act a fucking fool with you because, I mean, because that's what needs to happen. You cannot be nice to people who have no moral compass. You cannot be nice to people who already come into a fight ready to slice your head off. You have to match them with energy and enthusiasm. And if that means that you have to get dirty, and I saw this post, for the Lincoln Foundation or this Lincoln group, this group of Republicans that hate, Donald Trump. And they're like, DNC 2020 hashtag, we go low so you don't have to. And that's kind of like what I do anyway. But I'm like, for me, the selection of Kamala Harris, I think was symbolic, I mean, the whole historical thing. I'm supporting Kamala Harris because I supported her presidential campaign. And, and the only reason I supported Kamala Harris's presidential campaign was because she was Black. And I, as a Black person, I have the right to support a Black person just because they're Black. Just like white people get to support Trump just because he's white. So I don't think that her selection is the party, having this kind of like resonant voice telling people we absolutely believe and affirm that Black Lives Matter. What I think is that, they did this to show, this kind of like party unity where you had these two people who were supposed to be at opposite ends of the political spectrum, even though their politics are actually quite similar. And, and when she had that first little jab at him in the debate, like, about the school busing situation, that's, what I think brought them together. Because, I mean, the finalists were Susan Rice and then Karen Bass. And so Karen Bass probably wasn't going to do the spotlight. I love her. I think she's actually very smart. Susan Rice, I know, is very smart. I just think that Kamala Harris had the name recognition and the excitement because I think there was a poll that came out right after his selection that, enthusiasm in her candidacy had, increased interest in his. So everything was strategic for a reason. But that's my long answer to say no. I don't think that the Democratic Party has actually gotten a full grasp of what it means when we say Black Lives Matter. They haven't yet.
Okay,
I have to
so
echo what
then
James
I
said.
guess.
Yeah.
Oh, let's just then I guess let's then have this conversation about Kamala, right? And I'll turn it to Rashad then. How do you feel about the VP pick, Kamala Harris?
I'm gonna respectfully pass to one of the other gentlemen who are on the panel, and I'm also going to mute myself.
Go ahead. And, how do you feel about the VP pick, Ty? Out of curiosity.
So I like one of the things and it's like I read this article and I can't remember the woman that wrote it, but it was like one of the most it was such an honest portrayal of the like the struggle that like I think black people are, that black people that are not just it's not even about ideology. It's not like leftist and progressive black people. It's like black people in general right now are struggling with the pick. Now there is enthusiasm, but like we need to be clear with like who's pushing the enthusiasm, right? You know, and the like the internal strife is because you absolutely, you know, see a familiar, you know, color on the screen that you want to get behind and you want to clap for, and there's a moment in it that you actually like you're like there's like a core of me that's like excited that like that there's a a woman that has lived as a black woman in America her entire life, that she's going to be the VP. So the historical moment I can acknowledge. At the same time, at the same time, like, you know, I don't even have to go point by point, record by record for with her career. I don't have to even do that because I think there's enough information out there right now. And I keep on telling people, like, your issue is not with me. Your issue is with Wikipedia. They're the ones who chronicle what people do and they put their information up there. So if you don't like the facts, then maybe you should talk to Wikipedia. All I'm doing is sharing what I know and what I see. So it's like there's problematic things that all elected officials have been part of. And, you know, I think what we have to center ourselves around and is like not just being disappointed that it's Kamala Harris, but being disappointed and acknowledging the disappointment that is within ourselves. You know, there's a lot of perspectives about blaming elected officials for what they do. And one of the things that, you know, my partner always says to me is like the only way you can make real change is when you take accountability for yourself. So you take your own little bit of accountability, no matter what it is. And that's how you start to make changes, by being honest with what you see and honest with what your part of it is. And I can quantifiably say that, like, in past elections, I haven't been as invested, haven't been as passionate, haven't, you know, gotten to the debate table and spoke truth to power. And because of that, you know, I like there's a guilt within inside of me. And knowing that Kamala Harris right now is the vice presidential nominee, and that Joe Biden is the you know the nominee for POTUS, is, you know, even with all the work that I did this past cycle, you know, 70-hour work weeks, you know, between organizing and doing events and what have you, even with all of that, I still look at myself and say I could have did more. I should have went to that meeting. I should have called those extra 10 people in phone banking. I should have did this, that, and the other. So I take personal accountability in it instead of just pointing at Kamala Harris, her record, and X, Y, and Z, because I know within movement politics, we're moving towards something greater. And, you know, we took this loss on the chest, we took this loss in the heart, we took it. And like now is the time to like keep your eyes open, no matter who you intend to vote for, keep your eyes open, know who you're voting for. I don't care if you vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, Howie Hawkins, or whomever. Don't vote for Donald Trump, but like but like, it's like, you know, I don't care who you choose to vote for. Do it with your eyes open. Know who you're voting for, and know that we still have work to do. You know, the 4 years beyond this, Kamala Harris isn't going to save us. Joe Biden isn't going to save us. The Democratic Party isn't going to save us. The only people that are going to save us are us. So we need to get ourselves up, pay attention, keep our eyes open, ears open, and stop lying about these politicians and their legacies. Like, it's obscene, like, at this juncture, to lie about politicians and their legacies. It would have been in 2000, there was no internet. Like, you got to go to the you know, you got to go to the library, get a World Book encyclopedia. People can do it now within 3 seconds on their phones to figure out that you're not telling the truth about somebody's legacy. And, you know, that's our agency right now. If we're creating the same cult of personality behind the politicians in the Democratic Party, then we're amplifying the same kind of fascist environment that surrounds Donald Trump. And that's not
Well,
what I
let me
want to
ask you a
do. It's
question.
not what I'm going to be a part of. I'm always going to, you know, yeah, go ahead.
Well, then let me ask you a question. I mean, like this concept of identity politics, right? where we get swept up in the identities of people, right? I mean, whether it be like Bernie Sanders, right? Or whether it be like AOC, or whether it be like somebody who is probably of West Indian background, or somebody who is of a certain background that we feel like we connect with. How good is it and how bad is it? And I guess when we're talking about trying to support candidates, and how do we, as people who are working in politics or working around it and community organizing, how do we make sure that people are aware of the things that we really should be focusing on? And I guess I can toss this conversation, this thing to Rashad. How do we do better at campaigning and making people aware of what is going on, and how to, or if we should trust politicians?
So the short answer of that is that you should never trust politicians. And you should never, and I'm gonna go further because like I have to be fair, right? Because we're having a well-rounded conversation.
Yeah.
So not only should you not trust politicians, you shouldn't trust their staff, and you shouldn't trust anyone that pays for them. Or excuse me, anyone that is paid by them. Let's say that. You shouldn't trust community organizations that make endorsements, and you shouldn't trust your pastor, and you shouldn't trust the deacons at your church, and you shouldn't trust anybody. You should live in a world where you question everything and you believe actions. And then you should like question your own eyesight, because the reality is what you think you saw might not actually be what you saw, or what you think you saw was cultivated and packaged so that you could see that, but actually you didn't see what was going on behind it. So like you see the art, right? You see the final product, but you don't understand the science and the engineering that went into the creation of said art or product. So those are my thoughts. I think we should question more. Just because I trust my pastor doesn't mean that my pastor is trustworthy. Or if what he or she is saying actually makes sense, what was the motivation that made this thing be the priority of the conversation today? So all I'm saying is that even people that we love and respect cannot have the best intentions. Or even if they do have the best intentions for us, what about their motivations? What else is going on behind that? And I think that, we've gotten to a place in society where we have started to believe, especially Black people, for some reason, we believe that there should just be one. Like there's one leader that speaks for all of Black people, and it's the mentality, like slavery really did work on us. Like we really believe this stuff. So literally the entire Bible tells you that you can talk to God for yourself, but you literally believe that only your pastor can hear from God. That's on you. Obviously we're translating the same scripture very different ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is that what we think we see, what we think we know to be true, while it could very well be true, the reality is there are other things going on in the background that we have no knowledge of. And if Jesus could be fooled by Judas, who are you to not make mistakes, to not believe lies, to be susceptible to misinformation? We are all susceptible. Now, clearly, I was on the Rice train. I was very much a huge supporter of Susan Rice becoming the vice president nominee. I don't think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are a good team. That is me. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be a vice presidential candidate, but what I am saying to all of the people that are supporting her now for vice president, I just remember that a year ago she was running for president. And where were y'all then? Like, where was everybody who was, like, win with black women or whatever the hashtag and the frames that is being used in social media? Where was that when Kamala was running for president? There was a black woman running for president. All of these black people that point to Kamala's heritage now and her ethnicity. Well, if that was your concern, there was a descendant of an American slave in the race, who was Cory Booker. So where was your argument about people's blackness back a year ago, right? When you had a black woman or a woman of African descent in the race, and then you had a black man, a black American man who is the descendant of formerly enslaved Africans in America. So it's like I don't want to go there because we can point to that. We're upset because people aren't saying Black Lives Matter. Well, the only person that said it on the campaign trail was the first person that said it on the campaign trail was Julian Castro. Where were all the activists and advocates then? Because the blackest person running for president was probably Mayor Julian Castro or Secretary Castro. I think that is my argument isn't about who should be in the spot. My argument is about the logic and the bandwagon we decide to jump on. If there were black women riding extra hard for Mayor Pete and for Beto and for Amy Klobuchar and for Julian Castro, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden. I mean, we can go down this whole Bernie Sanders, this whole list of black women and black people who rose for every candidate except the two black people that were running for president. And I'm here for all things black. My shirt, this is Tupac, okay? I'm here for black. All that. Okay. Black art all in my apartment, inside of my car, black, all that. All I'm saying is that we do these bandwagon things because we think they're cute and we think it makes us look smart. But it doesn't make you look smart and it doesn't make you look cute. You look cheap. And you look out of fashion. That's what you look like.
So I think it's this then. I mean, because I was saying the same thing about Kamala. I was like, if black people love Kamala so much, they would have threw Joe Biden under the bus like they did Hillary Clinton in 2007 and rode with Kamala Harris like they did with Barack Obama.
Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. Hold on.
Kamala Harris.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear here. One, black people, like I have to fight. I have to push back on that, Alex, because I'm from South Carolina. I worked in South Carolina 07 and 08. Let's be very clear. If Barack Obama hadn't won Iowa in that caucus, he would not have won the South Carolina primary. Hillary Clinton was gonna mop the floor with Barack Obama in South Carolina. So, and there are a lot of people who are not gonna like what I'm about to say, and that's just something that they're gonna have to deal with. Black people in the South needed permission to vote for a black man. Let's be very, and we can unpack that. We can take that statement right there and build a whole cognate at the greatest university ever. And we can have 3 college seminars, senior seminars on that right there. But black, I'm telling you, black people needed permission. And when the white people of Iowa gave Barack Obama that caucus, it changed the dynamic because then black people knew that they had permission to vote for a black person.
Right.
And there will be people that want to push back on that, but I said what I said. I lived there. I worked in that election cycle. They don't want to go there with me.
Well,
Go ahead, Shane.
so, I mean, just piggybacking on what Rashad is saying too, you also have to remember that Black people in the South are intensely religious. Most of them are Christian. And, Rashad is, an ordained elder in the Church of God in Christ. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ. People in the Church of God in Christ were not going to be voting for a woman anyway. Years ago, when Hillary Clinton was running for president, Dorinda Clark, when she had her church called Preachers of Detroit, basically said no woman should be leading where a man should be doing this. And I mean, and that so Kamala's candidacy isn't necessarily problematic. It's just that, when you have groups of people who are conservative, and Black people have a tendency to be socially conservative, and they still believe that the man is the head, they're not going to be voting for a Black woman. They're just not, you know. And the other part is that she doesn't have children. She's married to a Jewish white man, so it's all of these marks because I mean, we still have to talk about how Black womanhood is validated by either being attached to a husband and then, producing kids, because single Black women or Black women who don't have children are seen as either career obsessed and non productive. Okay. So that's you might not like it, but I mean, that's what people believe. They believe that you are literally, obsessed with your career when you should be at home making babies and serving your husband. So in the same way that white people thought that they needed permission, that Black people thought they needed permission to vote for a Black man, I'm telling you right now, Black people wouldn't be, if they didn't support Hillary the way that they did, that they should have, they're not going to support a woman like that. They're just not. Now, I mean, those of
I
us
mean, I
who
think there's. Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. I had an interesting perspective about, in the conversation of permission. So, one of, like, when we were talking about, like, where was everybody supporting Kamala Harris for the presidency or Cory Booker? It's like, it's strange to me that, in the context of, amplifying Black lives and Black agency that we're in right now. Every single day, we're screaming loudly for this right now. And we have allies that are screaming loudly around the planet for it too. So, like, in the context of that, it's like, well, why did we wait for a 77-year-old white man to tell us
My
who
God.
was a qualified Black woman to do the job as a vice president? Why did we wait for him and his consultants to sit around and tell us that, not only was Karen Bass not, she didn't have the profile, Rice doesn't have this, Kamala has this, that, and another, Nina Turner was never even considered. Like, all of these extremely accomplished, powerful, Black women, we waited for them to come down and actually them to funnel this and tell Joe Biden, you have to do this. Amy Klobuchar came out and said, she kneecapped Elizabeth Warren, said it should be a Black woman when she took herself out of the race because of George Floyd. Now, like, it's like when we do that, like, we allowed for that to happen. It's like, I get that's where we are now. But I also know that that's some scolding hot tea that people need to start sipping on and swallowing. Is that, like, when you're loud, Black, performative, and you want to stand up and claim your Blackness and amplify that, one of the things we have to start doing is doing some serious truth telling. That when you start patting elected officials on the back for the job that they've done, let's talk about the actual job that they're doing. And one of the things that we just allowed them to do is to tell us what was a qualified Black woman in America for the VP. And people have been screaming for years. I remember back in 2016, oh, it's going to be Oprah. Oprah should run for president. Like, I mean, all kinds of, like, this year is like Michelle Obama should be the VP, and like, everybody has an opinion on who's qualified to do this job and who should be in that job. And even I heard from someone say that Joe Biden was a great VP, and he was a great VP, and he is only qualified to tell us who is going to be a great VP. And that was an elected official here in Philadelphia. Philadelphia that said that, and I was like highly upset because this is why I go about lying about the legacies of elected politicians. I fully stand by the job and the work that we have to do right now, but like one thing that's not part of that work is saying that he's qualified to tell us who we should be supporting, who we should be amplifying, and who we should be lauding into the office of the second highest office in the world, essentially. You know what I mean? So it. When I heard that argument, when someone said that to me, it was like a aha, like whoa, we did do that. And I think to be quite frank, to be frank, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter too, and I actually like to apply it there too. I'm like, I don't know if I would have liked it if he did it too. Which is why, looking back, I liked his answer when they were like, "Do you commit to choosing a woman?" And he was kind of like, you know, I mean, yeah, I want to. Yeah, I mean, we'll see." And people were like, "He's not going to choose a woman," and it's like the honest answer. Like we would all absolutely love and like to have the person that we want to be in there, but like the person that is right to be in there, the person that we need. And I think poll after poll says that Black folks in particular we don't really necessarily subscribe to identity politics. We obviously want, you know, a Black person, but it's not what we center our agency around. We just want somebody that's going to do the job, right? Which is why we entire stuff around hope and change. That was the message. It was like Barack Obama was the face of it, but we thought it was a new way of doing politics, you know. And you know, so we don't do that. What really it is like there's a lot of white neoliberal voters that are like, they think that their charity to our community is to push a Blackface as representation to the forefront, and meanwhile we don't get any material changes out of it, guaranteed. So
then let me ask the question then. Do we feel like, I mean, or and let me do you feel like that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is going to do a successful job at unifying the party? We have a lot of different factions within our party right now. What we really need right now is for the party to be unified. Do you think that they have the ability to do this? And I'll let anybody go ahead.
No, not in the way that it probably needs to be done. That's going to have to be a Democratic Party and a Democrat, you know, issue where, you know, we as a party come together. I don't think that this is a unifying ticket. I'm excited about her candidacy because I supported her. So I'm riding with you. Black woman, I'm there. You're an AKA. I'm there for you, you know. So I'm like, but again, I just don't see that happening. What I saw when she was named is the same thing I saw when she was running for president. So, you know, of course, all of these think pieces came out. You know, I mean, talking about her record, some of the information was correct, some of it wasn't correct, and not just technically incorrect, it just wasn't correct. So when you have to correct people, you know, of course, they get mad and they say, oh, well, you know, you just want her because she's light skinned and she's this and she's that. And some of that might be true and some of it might not be. But the fact of the matter is that I still supported her candidacy. And, you know, I even tried to host like a fundraiser and an event for her, you know. So, I mean, I was committed to her candidacy from the start. So I'm excited about it in that regard. Am I going to work and make calls and do stuff? I absolutely am, because I think, Ty, you brought this up. I still feel guilty for not doing as much as I probably could and should have done when Hillary was running. And, you know, not because I wasn't excited about her candidacy. I thought it was okay, but it was just, you know, I felt like the same way that, you know, I mean, like Donald Trump had been running for president since The Simpsons had wrote about it on their cartoon. And then, you know, finally the third time around, he finally became president. And that's how I felt about Hillary Clinton. She wasn't running a particular shadow campaign, but her 2016 campaign was literally a repeat of her 2008 campaign when she lost, you know, to Barack Obama. And then you had a faction, you know, in the party then. Somehow, you know, those two people who were on the opposite ends of the political spectrum and their acolytes were on the opposite ends of the political spectrum, because Hillary Clinton had these people called the Puma folks who basically said party unity my ass, and they were rich white people and they wanted to go ahead and crash the party. Somehow that didn't happen. We were still able to come together in 2008 and elect Barack Obama after a very, you know, kind of difficult primary. I don't see why we can't do that now. Now, the one thing that I will say that's going on now that wasn't going on in 2008 is that very progressive people and young people are extremely vocal, and now those voices are being amplified. So people like you, Rashad, and Ty, because see, I'm much older than all of you. So for you all, you know, this is your moment, and you have the ability to say, okay, so look, Joe Biden is going to be dead in probably like 5 or 6 years. Kamala, we know that you're probably itching to become president. Here's what we need to happen in order for you to stay in that office, because if you don't, we're going to run a primary person against you, and you're not going to hold on to that seat. So you better go ahead into this office knowing that you owe us for doing what we did to get you elected.
Yeah,
That whole
Same.
holding them accountable, that she's going to be. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I've been trying to say. We need to really, really, really figure out a way to hold Kamala and Joe Biden accountable. And I think that's what's really going to get us what we want, and learn how to better hold our politicians accountable. Because what's happening is that politicians are allowed people, the electorate in general. I'm not necessarily. Huh?
Who is we?
That's what I'm saying. The electorate in general needs to be better at holding politicians accountable. I mean, I feel like politicians are allowed to marginalize minorities and then get promotions or get higher seats in the process. And I think that we, as a whole, with this whole mentality of we need to be more forgiving of people who have destroyed thousands of people's lives and generations afterwards, are allowed to now rise to higher office, and we're supposed to somehow forgive them. So, like, I mean, I just need to know how we.
Are you talking about Joe, or are you talking about Kamala? Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about in general. Like,
No,
I mean, you're
talking about somebody. Who is you talking about?
I'm talking about in general, just politicians in general. How do we hold politicians in general accountable more so that they will not be able to excel to higher offices when they do, when they make bad decisions as far as policies are concerned?
But okay, so how am I supposed to know that they're making bad policies that are ruining my life? How am I supposed to know that, Alex?
By, I guess, paying attention to it. But apparently, go ahead, Ty.
I mean, yeah. Can I jump in? I think one of the ways that we know preemptively what people stand for is based off of their campaign funding. And one of the reasons why like Citizens United and things like that are so corrosive in politics is because, they basically sheepdog big donor money. And then when you're donating to like a candidate as well, you're 15, 20, 30, whatever, how much money you're donating. You could donate $1,000, but for every $1,000 an individual citizen raises, there are people that are CEOs of shadow companies that are donating as well. And they're the ones that are eventually owed favors when, an elected official gets into office. I mean, I recently just heard about a local elected. Well, because you can look and you can look up what people's campaign funding is. You can research that.
Ty,
You can look up who has consistently donated to people's campaigns. Yeah.
Tyrell. Go ahead. So you saying
yes
that me, regular voter,
yes,
Michael, I'm Michael Black, regular voter, and I'm supposed to vote, and I'm supposed to hold elected officials accountable, and I don't even know what accountability means. And now you're telling me the first step in being accountable is that I have to go look up finance ethics reports on elected officials. I just learned how to create my Gmail so I could get on TikTok.
Well, I mean, look, it's listen. Listen. We there. What is the quote from Black Thought from the Roots? Lost generation, fast paced nation. Like that right there is like people right now are so caught up. We're so caught, like, and I say it all the time in regards to political discourse and discussions. People will spend an entire day debating, arguing, and going back and forth on social media, and within a half an hour of that, you can look on the Google and find out ways that you can figure out what somebody's campaign financing is about. The young people that Alex just spoke out, and that I'm sorry, that Shane just spoke about, that have a voice right now and that are speaking up. These are people that have done that research. Right now, young people that are involved in politics are the most informed young generation of people invested in politics that I would say probably in a long time at the very least, because we can look up the information that we need to be able to vet the politicians that we want to vet to get into office. And so like, yes, I mean, I'm sorry, people, there's work to go into being a citizen. And one of the jobs as being a citizen is to hold elected officials accountable. And it starts by doing your research long before somebody is ready long before you go into the voting booth on November 3rd. It starts then. So like this whole past, cycle starting back in January of 2019, the work started right then, if not before then, for people to inform themselves about who they were supporting. And it had nothing to do about like with identity. And if that's what you chose to do, like Shane did, that's what you chose, and that's fine. Stand on that, and that's great. The fact of the matter is that other people that consider themselves to be informed citizens, to be informed voters, if that's what you're doing, then you have to do the work. And the work is not debating on social media. The work is not even just door knocking. The work is being able to trust the people that you are supporting. And if you can trust them, then you have to go and do the work, look and see what you're trusting. You have to see what they're about.
Well,
And when you look up what someone's FEC funding is, when you look it up, you can see like, oh, this person took, $50,000 from this oil company. You can see that. So then when we're talking about climate change, to suggest that like the person that you're voting for that took, like Cory Booker, for instance. Cory Booker, as much as I think that he has some really great bones on the debate stage, and I actually like him. The fact of the matter is, though, is that he's received hundreds of thousands of dollars from the pharmaceutical companies in his state. So to think that he was going to pass a law that was going to lower pharmaceutical prices, or that was going to push towards a universal healthcare system, is simply it's obtuse. There's ways that you can go about informing yourselves, so that way when you're speaking to voters, speaking to local people in your community, you can give them the real information that they need. And it's not about just like my guy because I have pom-poms. It's like my guy because I trust them, and here's the information.
well, so I get that part. The only issue that I have with that though too is that a lot of times you don't have all of the information for these people and you can't completely trust them. And so I'm pretty well educated. I'm smart. I can probably find information fairly quickly and, distill it out and then go ahead and say, okay, let me go ahead and communicate this information to X, Y, and Z. um, that's still going to come with part of my editorial filter. It's still going to come with some of my bias. So if there's a way that that can be done where the information is presented and it's, just facts and that's it, then that part is fine. That's the part that I care about more than anything else. Like, this is how science works. So like when I was in nursing school, even my training when I worked in HIV/AIDS, we always talked about harm reduction. And what that means is that you meet people exactly where they are and you give people the tools that they need to reduce the harm to themselves. That's what you do. You don't tell them that this is what I think you should do. Here's how I think you should act. You say, okay, you might be using
I
heroin.
just want to be clear.
Let me
Yeah. I just want
Go
to be
ahead.
clear. That's not what I was advocating for. It's just saying like this is how I think you should act. It's like
Oh no, no, no.
so you might not
I'm
be
not
able to
saying that
give
at
someone
all.
all the information. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not saying that at
Go
all.
ahead.
What I'm saying though, but just from a harm reduction perspective, is that you present people with a buffet of options, and what you also do is that you give them all of the information that they need to make decisions to lower their harm and protect their health. That's what you do. And politics, I think, probably is the same way.
Hmm.
Present all of the information, and those of us who are
But that's what I'm
educated
advocating
have
for.
have a moral obligation, not only just I mean, we should be doing this anyway because we want to see people do better. And, not everyone is going to have the ability to understand an FEC filing or, contributions or be able to go to Ballotopedia or any of these other, what's the other one? Not OnStar. It's another one where you can look at political donations. But you know what I'm saying? It's still up to us to kind of go ahead
Yeah.
and, do that kind of, give that information to those people.
And I
Look,
absolutely, and
I
that's what I'm
don't.
advocating for, is to like make sure that people are as informed as possible, especially when they're in positions of influence. If you're somebody who's invested in a campaign and you are going out to canvas or phone bank, is to be equipped with the information necessary to give to the voters, the honest information necessary. Now, I get that people have their filters, but that's the work of being a responsible citizen too, is to go beyond your filters too, to make sure that you're telling the absolute complete truth to yourself first. So that way you can give the truth to other voters and other people outside of yourself. So one of the things that I always that like I had to get honest with was that like the person that I was supporting in the primaries was not going to win. Now, I had to tell that truth to myself. Me going around and still phone banking and knocking doors and telling people that like so we're still in it when I'm looking at the polls rolling downhill and
Yep.
look, I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not going to lie to people because I'm not going to lie to myself. So what I did is like I took a step back and I and my organizing group, we took a step back because we were like, look, we know that like where do we center things going forward? And centering ourselves going forward was about telling the truth and not through a filter where we were just trying to center our candidate, but through a filter where we were centering the top line truth to voters so that people can go to the polls with their eyes open again and not go in there ready to clap and applaud for politicians that we're hiring to do a job before they actually put pen to paper, strap up their boots, and actually start to get to work for us. Because look, it's a gauntlet getting through a primary. We all know that. It's a gauntlet getting through the presidential election as well. But like, if they don't think that the gauntlet
So,
is coming in 2021 through 2024, if they don't think that that's going to be a gauntlet too, then they're sadly mistaken. People are going to be shouting Black Lives and stomping in the streets up and down Madison Avenue or whatever avenue all around the country if people don't get the things that make material changes in their life. I don't care if it's Kamala Harris up there, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, or Joe Biden. It doesn't matter. So,
Like, uh, Tyrell, you live in like, I would love to, like, your dreams are beautiful because, like, you, like, where were you when I was doing the Progressive Leadership Summit? Because, like, you activists, I just love. Hey, baby, you dream. You're a dreamer. That is your ministry. You is, which one of,
don't let him Ty. Don't let him talk to you like that.
which,
You're not gonna talk
no,
to Ty like
no,
that.
no,
I
let's be
believe it.
clear about something. No, let's be
One
clear.
time in my life,
no,
I've
no,
been
no,
Be
a
no,
clear
government.
about something.
it's my
Let's
turn.
be
Which one
let
of
me be
The
Jacob
government.
abundantly clear about something.
Who
Let
wasn't the
me
head
be
of many
abundantly clear
colors?
about something. There's one thing that I know for sure, and two things that I know for certain is that things in this country from the very get-go started with people having a dream. So if what I think is possible is something that's a joke or to be laughed at, like by all means, we'll all be laughing while we're marching in the street to the police to for them to put handcuffs on us because we're fighting for the things that we need in our community. So, I mean, I get it. I know that the powers that be are strong. I know that they are entrenched. But my job as a citizen is to start to rally people to get behind these things, to get behind policies that are life saving. This is not like, this is like, so like the game of politics aside, this isn't a game. These are people's lives out here. I lost two friends to COVID over the past. Like, this is people's
Mm.
lives. So as much as it might seem like a dream, like my dream is rooted finitely in reality. The reality that I need health care, that I have an autoimmune disease, that the children that I support and teach every single day absolutely need more than opportunity. They need to have opportunity guaranteed. So like when I'm talking about things, and it might seem over the head, pie in the sky, pink clouding and the whole nine. It might seem like that. But like if I didn't look, I know for sure, and you know this too as a man of God. If it's speaking through me, then it is truth, because I am the son of God, right? So like I am his face, I am his child. So nothing that I'm saying is out of the realm of possibility, right? So my job is to get people involved, get people invested, so that way we can get the things that are guaranteed to us as birthrights.
Okay, so let me do this, okay, guys, because one, I gotta watch the Democratic convention that you guys say that y'all don't want to watch, and two, I know some of y'all have really tight schedules,
Yeah, I gotta
and tight is always good. So what I need you
go.
guys to do is,
That's always good.
so what I need you
It
guys
is.
to do is, what I need you guys to
It's one of the
do
reasons
is,
I gotta go.
what you guys do is, one, leave us with a comment that you all want to use to inspire. And then tell everybody how they can contact you and follow you on your social media. All right. And then we'll let you go. All right. And so we'll start with Rashad. And then we'll go to Ty. And then no, let's start with Shane. We'll go to Rashad and then we'll go to Ty. All right.
Yeah, just go vote. And I'm not on social media like that. And even if you've tried to find me on Facebook, my profile's locked down, so I don't want anybody following me. That's I love y'all though. Rashad, it's always good to see you. So virtually. Ty, nice to meet you. Jason, always great to see you. And great to see everybody in
You
the
too,
chat.
baby.
So I'll holler at y'all later. Bye.
Sweet Jesus.
Go ahead, Rashad.
Where I was,
What would
I got this. Thank you. So where I
you?
was going was, I was saying that Tyre reminded me of Joseph when Israel or Jacob gave him the coat of many colors, because the dream that he shared with us tonight is an advocate's and an activist's dream, right? To see the people that you're sacrificing for, right? To see them achieve and be able to have access and create that space for themselves. So it's an activist and an advocate's dream. And when I was heavy in the activism space, I wish you were like one of the people that I had access to, because we could have did some great things. But I'm no longer in that space. So I moved from the activism space to the advocate space. And in the advocate space, I don't have the pleasure of daydreaming. Like, I can dream at night when I'm in REM, but when I'm active during the day, I have to find ways to make my dream palatable for the people that are in power, right? Because I am a progressive that works in the establishment space, right? And I often say I am not paid by the DNC, and I'm not on any of the DNC committees. So I will never be their representative to my community. I am my community's representative at every table and in every room that I have access to. And I think where we make mistakes is we walk into those doors not knowing that in the activism space, we walk into the establishment door. We're walking into the doors of power that can make or break the people that we're technically fighting against. We have to go to barter with them, and then we don't do our research. We don't do opposition research is what we call it in the political world, but in the real world and in business, we just call it doing your homework on your competitor, doing your homework on your client, right? And so in politics, we have people who finally get the meeting. They finally done enough work outside to get the attention of the folks inside, and we finally get the meeting. And then we walk into the meeting and we don't know the rules. We don't know the agenda. We don't know how long we have to speak. We don't know Robert's Rules of Order. We've literally walked into the space and we lose because we don't know how to play the game on the inside. So I'm 100% for every person who is fighting for communities. Like, I think those need to be our mayors and our city council members and our state representatives and our delegates and our state senators and our county council members and our county commissioners and all of these titles, the honorables, like all the way up from there to Congress, to the United States Senate, to the presidency. But the reality is Cori Bush from Missouri, that is one spark in a sea and galaxies of stars. AOC is one spark in a sea and galaxy of stars. Richie Torres, Mondaire Jones, Jamal Bowman. You got these I hate to say this, I hate this term, these freak accidents, these flukes, these once in a lifetime opportunities, and you have so many of them happening at what seems to be simultaneously or in a short amount of time. But if we're not, like, I applaud Tyrell's dream, because in his dream, people wake up and they just figure out like how to get to the next step. But in the world that I live in, I have to find ways to take Tyrell's dream and make it palatable for the people who are making decisions. And then also find a way to take Tyrell's dream and turn it into Gerber baby food, to spoon feed it to the people at home who don't know where to look. Like, I literally have people who Facebook me and say, where do I register to vote? You 40 years old, how you don't know where to register to vote? But I can't focus on that. I have to immediately say, do you want to do it online or do you want to do it in person? Do you want to fill out a form? Like, can you afford a postage? I need to get all the information so I can give them the best tool that's going to make them act on it. So there are some of us who are seated in the space where we're between the activists and the elected officials. Right. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, if I say this to say this, if the people at home had every tool they needed at their disposal, we would not exist. So we have to find a way to do both. And unfortunately, that's a really horrible and tight situation to be in, because then it looks like, it looks like how Fannie Lou Hamer looked at Martin Luther King when he negotiated to give them 2 delegate spots, but they wanted the whole shebang. Was Martin wrong? I can't answer that, because I've been in Martin's shoes. Yeah. Was Fannie wrong for being upset at Martin? I can't answer that, because I've been in Fannie's shoes. And so
absolutely,
the change that we want and the change that we're getting, they seem like they're, a million light years apart. But the reality is, if we understood the science behind the final product, it would help us understand how to gauge this and how to actually plan and strategize. And there are a lot of us who are in these positions who don't understand that. So we'll never get what we want because there are too many of us who are not doing this the right way. Like, we can't ram things down people's throats, But at the same time, we can't continue with this incremental change. Like we need exponential change, transformation, like almost immediately. But we live in a world and in systems that don't really allow for that. If we got the change we wanted overnight, everything else will go to hell. Not because we can't do it, but we live in a system that has brainwashed people into thinking that everything has to be incremental over time, opposed to it being transformational or exponential change in the moment. So I could go on and on about that, but those are my thoughts regarding that. Tyrell, I love I can't you more. I'm just saying.
No, that was good word. That was good word, preacher. I understand what you're saying. No, that was good. I mean, so we're trying to wrap it up, but I mean, that was good word. And actually, I mean, that spoke to me. So as you were ministering to Ty, it ministered to me too. Because I think, and my thing is that I do believe one day, I mean, I believe that I have a dream that we will see a government that serves all people. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of institutions that have been created and that make a lot of money around the disservice of people. And so if you are right, if we got everything that we wanted, there would be a lot of systems around us that would collapse. And so I got that huge and big. But how do people contact you, Rashad? I mean, I know you want to leave the people with the message of it's happening, but and incrementally, but I need you to tell us how they contact you. And then I'm going to switch it to Ty. Okay.
Well, first of all, I hate incremental change, which is why like people don't like me, whatever. So what you say? How y'all can't find me? Don't find me.
Okay. All right, Ty.
Hello, my website address is iamrashad.com. There we go. That's it.
Go ahead, Ty. What would you like to leave with people?
I mean,
how can they...
one of the things that I heard just recently from Ayanna Presley was she said
I love her.
The people that are closest to me too. She said the people that are closest to the pain need to be closest to the power. And it sat with me. It happened last night. I was in a training. And I want to clarify before I give my contact information is that I absolutely do know what pragmatism is. I do it every single day as in my passion, which is teaching in the classroom. I teach 5-year-olds, and there is a level of patience and pragmatism that goes into every single minute of every single day. I speak fervently, I speak passionately, because not only does the message, the words that people get, they also need to hear the power in it, and they need to hear the urgency in it as well. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not, my personal modus operandi is to march into the streets and burn things down. What my modus operandi is to organize, is to learn to do it the right way and equip people with the correct information, so that way when they not just go into the vote, but if they think about running, if they think about taking a ward seat or what have you locally, that they're equipped with the right information and in a palatable way, so that way they can reach voters, but also reach higher when they reach that platform. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you, Rashad, because I thought what you said too. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at the time is now TB. Speaking of not being pragmatic, my Twitter name is at the time is now TB. And you can also hit me up on Facebook. My Facebook is generally open. It's Ty Brown, just TY Brown. It's my face and a Black Lives Matter ring on it. So hit me up. Also, vote for Mike Doyle if you live in the 170th. Vote for him for state rep. He is a phenomenal candidate, and we need to take back the state house from the Republicans. So let's do that.
Okay. All right. So guys, thank you so much for being on. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Rashad. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Shane, if you're still watching or not. I really do appreciate you guys for being on and taking the time and saying yes. I'm humbled by your expertise and your thought processes. And I will see you next time, okay? I will see you next time. I'm going to give my little closing remarks, all right? So, guys, everybody, thank you so much for following me on Talks with Alex. Thank you so much for being here on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. You can definitely go back and listen to this. It's going to be on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Talks with Alex. You can also check my like page, Alex Deering, and you can just click like, and all the videos will be there. And it'll also update you whenever we do our talks, and which are on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on all my social media platforms. You can also follow me on Instagram, j.alex.deering, or you can follow me on Twitter, Deering_Alex. All of those are my platforms. You can definitely connect with me there. All right. I just want to say this. At some point, I think that we will get there. One of the things that I love about the next generation is that there are a lot of hangups that we have and generations before of us have had that this next generation that's coming up does not have. And that's what inspires me about tomorrow. That's one of the reasons why I work so hard, because I do dream of a government that does actually serve its people, but not just its people, but all people, where we can come together globally and tackle the issues that plague our earth. I mean, we have people who are living in poverty. We have a homeless. There's like a whole space, an area downtown in Center City of homeless people where they've actually camped out, and they're talking about removing them. I mean, we have spaces of where we have homeless people sleeping in the subways. We have communities that look like third world countries in North Philly, all across this country. We have African Americans, we have Asians, Native Americans, we have West Indian, Hispanic, Africans, all these cultures in this country still fighting for civil rights, still fighting for the right to just be considered a citizen and have the basic rights of a citizen in our country. And I mean, and we're in 2020. We're in 2020 now. We're not in 1619 anymore. We're not even in the early 1900s anymore. You know, some of these issues we would have thought would have moved or gone away by now, but we're still dealing with them. And so having an idealist mentality or believing that we can actually change the world is what actually changes the world. When we become so complacent, or we become so where we get to the point where we've been beat down to where we can't dream of a better world tomorrow, where we're always constantly telling people what cannot happen instead of telling people what can, I think that's when we go backwards, and that's where we don't see the progress happen. All right. So moving forward, if you see somebody out there trying to make a dream happen and they dream of a better world, support them. Don't make it your personal interest or opinion to try to bring them down to earth or show them your limitations. Actually support the dreams that they have and try to push them forward, especially if you know that those dreams make sense, or you know that if the dream that they have of the world will make the world actually better. Support that. It is not your personal responsibility to put your limitations or your fears or what you think of the world on somebody else that dreams of a better world. Hey, that's just my rant. You know, you can call me naive if you want to. I'm almost 40 years old. So, I mean, it's just soap and water. I just look young. But I have lived for a while. I have my own issues about the world too. So saying all that, follow me, like, comment, and share. Be here with me next week. It's the Republican convention. I'm thinking that I might bring a whole bunch of Republicans on here, and we could just powwow about what's happening at the Republican convention. And I could just sit back there and look and see what the Republicans are thinking. Because I will tell you this, a lot of the Republicans that are out now are a lot more socially liberal than you think they are. A lot of the young ones. This Republican Party that we see out here is not the same type of Republican Party that's happening on the lower levels as far as citywide and statewide. So I just may bring some Republicans on next week to talk about where they or how they feel about their party. Because apparently, if John Casey's going to get up on the screen and give a whole speech for the Democratic Party, apparently the Republicans aren't as happy as you may think they are. And they may not necessarily be as united as you think they are. All right? Hey, the Democrats, we're a family. In family situations, we have arguments. We're going to fight each other. We're going to disagree. All right? But at the end of the day, we all still love each other. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris for president. We will see a change happen in this country if they are elected. All right? That's the end of tonight. And thank you so much for following. You have a great night.